it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday on this Sunday, October the 15th. I am your host, I am Roland Mann, and I am joined by, I thought he was there, but he's disappeared. But, oh, there he is. I'm joined by regular Thomas Flormonte. Say hi, Tommy.
Howdy do, howdy do.
And we are also joined by regular Miss Roberta Conroy. What's up, Roberta?
Hello. Good.
And new regular, our top troublemaker, Mr. Tom Mason.
Hi, everyone.
And,
I thought I was a troublemaker, but golly, I don't match up to Mr.
Well, you went on vacation, so I usurped your title.
That's right. Took over. That's right.
You have to make extra trouble now, and you can get it back.
Oh, don't encourage him to make extra trouble.
I'm number 2 troublemaker.
So a quick Kickstarter update. These books are going out, folks. They are many of them are in the hands of the postal system. You can see this beautiful.
Hey, that looks good.
Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
That looks so good.
those metallic ones. I think we did we came up with the better thing. I think it was better just to print them straight down without the white. I think they stand out a lot better.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if you got the Kickstarter
I mean,
versions,
Kablam did that. I don't know.
yeah. Kablam, our buddies at Kablam, right?
Those guys.
So these will be making their way to you unless you got a T-shirt. If you got a T-shirt, you're gonna have to wait just a little bit because we don't have those yet. So we do still have a Kickstarter going on, but I'll wait and we'll play that video at the end because we have a special guest with us tonight. He is now recently retired, and I have it on firm authority that he is going to name names tonight. It is no holds barred. Please welcome everyone, Mr. Jim Chadwick. Hello, Mr. Jim.
How are you doing?
Jim.
How are you doing, sir?
Very good, very good. Nice to see some familiar faces there, except I don't know if I've ever met Thomas or not.
We've not met before. Nope.
No.
But
Tommy,
nice to
meet
meet
Jim. Jim, meet Tommy.
Howdy do. Howdy.
You, I'm sure you're familiar with his work because Tommy inked a whole bunch of stuff back in the Malibu days.
Yeah, a lot of Ultra Book stuff.
Oh, no, I definitely know the name.
Yeah. But other than that, it's almost old house, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in fact, way old house because, Mr. Mason and I,
that's true.
back in the dawn of time, we were roommates. So
We go back a long way.
Even in college.
Original
We get
gangster.
some stories today, I hope.
That's what I hoped to kind of pepper you with today. We're gonna find out since you're retired, we're gonna find out your story. Tell us, Jim, where did it all begin? How did you get your start in comics?
Since I retired, it's a long story. So I hope you guys.
Well, and see, the other thing
career.
is you are no longer beholden to any corporate overlords. So
true.
name all the names.
Oh, you guys no NDAs or anything like that? You're all released from all your stuff?
And they've paid me out all my money, so I'm not.
Oh, that's right.
Nobody
So you
can
have
hold
no
the
more
check
money
over
coming
my
to
head,
you. You're gonna spill the
anything
beans.
like that.
Plus, you're about to skip country, right?
I am. So, okay. So, what did you want to deal with first? How I got into
how'd you get started? What would you say? What's your first job in comics?
Well, I'll try to summarize this as quickly as I can. Like most of us, right? I grew up being a big comics fan. I wanted to get into comics, and I hope to draw a comic someday. And then somehow that early on that didn't work out, and I ended up going into a career in graphic design. And then I would probably say, my first couple of gigs in comics were working with our familiar home base of Malibu Comics, because I was doing logos for Mr. Tom. I was doing a lot of, which I found a bunch of these going through my files, and it just sort of like I did these by hand and in the pre-computer days. And then I drew a funny book for him, which was this 6-issue miniseries written by Paul O'Connor called The Liberator. And
you drew that?
I drew that.
I didn't know that. I've got copies right over there.
That was inked by a Roland Mann buddy, Butch Burcham.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the experiences I had from that, because I being an editor for a long time in comics, you nothing infuriates you more than people who don't make deadlines. So I was that guy for Mr. Mason, And the thing was, it was a tough book to draw because it was all set in World War II, and I had to go research these guns and tanks and uniforms, and there was so much of this detail in it, and it was taking me forever. And at the end of that experience, it's like, okay, I guess I'm never drawing comic books. This is a hard freaking job. It's not easy to do. It's hard. It's hard, And then what happened was, when I was working for Malibu, I had a couple of other jobs in graphic design in Philadelphia where I was living. But then I somehow, through this weird sort of circumstances, and it was originally originated through an old friend of Tom and I's, Mike Robb, and then also our mutual friend Mike Gold, who was a DC editor at the time.
Right.
That there was a design director position open. Richard Bruning had left staff at DC, and then somehow it was arranged that I had an interview with my old boss, the great Dick Giordano, and I don't know, after a couple of months, Dick just liked me, hired me on, and that's how I ended up working for DC. It was really kind of an unexpected journey to do that, And that
was DC in New York, right?
That was DC in New York, yeah. And I was in over my head, quite honestly, in retrospect. I was completely underqualified for that job. I mean, I think I did okay, but it was just like, I look back now and it's like, oh my God, like we would never, more recently, have never hired anybody with my relative lack of experience now as we did back then. But, it was a different time, right? Because Dick was just a great guy. And it was like one of those, in the old days, it's like, I like this guy, I'm hiring him. Nowadays, you've got to interview 10 people, right? And you've got to interview them like 3 times, and it's really difficult. But that was kind of an advantage back then. It was like somebody liked you, they hired you, and that was it, and I kind of miss that in a way. But anyway, so that's how I ended up at DC, and then I was there at DC initially about 3 years, and things weren't really working out for me at the time at DC, and I had a bunch of things going on in my personal life, and just coincidentally, these folks out on the West Coast at Malibu were like, "Hey, we've got some money, and we're doing this new thing, and we're wondering if you'd be interested." And I remember first I kind of blew it off. I said, "No, I got too much stuff to do here." And then after a while, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this. This sounds like a fun opportunity, getting on the ground floor." And I think that was right around the time you started too, Roland. I mean, you were there already, but I think you hadn't started too much longer before. I started there.
Well, I started in '92. When
okay. So it was a longer time than I thought, because I started in June of '93.
Okay, well, so, not that long though.
Roland, were you at the end of '92?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe about 6 months, something like that.
Because I talked to Chris Alm in July at Dragon Con, and that's when he and I kind of talked, and he was like, "Here's what we're planning to do, blah blah blah," and because I had tried to I had been selling stories to Tom and Chris, and I had not sold as many, and my I can remember one of my rejections from Tom was like, "I really like this story, but we can't use it right now because we have other plans," right? Mm-hmm. And he didn't elaborate, but that's when Chris filled me in, and then he said something like, "Well, we could just hire you." I said, "Well, why don't you hire me?" And then 2 weeks later, after I guess he went back and talked to Tom and all. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, and they made the offer for me to come out.
Because it's the weird thing is that it's relatively easy to find somebody who can write and draw comics and letter comics and color comics. It's really hard to find someone who can edit comics and understands how all the pieces go together and get all those things in on time or relatively close to on time. And that's a really hard skill. But when you can find a guy like that, you usually find him in the swamps of Florida, which is where we found Roland, I think. And
Mississippi.
You hoist him up from the muck and you say, "Listen, California is the place to be."
So I loaded up the truck.
And you know what, Tom? That's interesting, because I think that in a weird way, because my career took these really circuitous twists and turns and stuff. But, so I ended up becoming an editor like late in my career, which I was really thankful for. But I think a lot of that experience I had before made me a good editor.
Well,
because I had drawn comics, I worked on the other side, I had worked with editors, I'd seen all this stuff coming together, and I love story, and it was just sort of like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do it.
Well, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you, Jim. Is that how did you make that that transition? Because when you and I worked together, it was at Malibu. You were the I don't remember your title. I apologize, but you were like the head graphics guy.
Yeah, art director. Art director, yeah. But I always appreciated Malibu because they let me sit on the editorial board. So every time you guys had meetings, talk about stuff, I was there, and that was another thing that appealed to me about the job is they were giving me that role. But look, I am really, really lucky. I've had a very, very lucky career, and the thing was, I had been out of comics for a while, and I was drifting around, and a lot of people don't get to make like a late in career change, which is what I wanted to do, and I had the opportunity, and bringing this back around, a lot of it is thanks to our old friend Hank Canals, who you mentioned a little while, because it was this weird thing where we all got laid off at Malibu at the same time, right? And then Hank ended up at Warner Brothers, right? He had a job at Warner Brothers working with the theme parks, and then around 2005, I want to say early 2005, he was offered a job in the same corporation, of course, working for DC, heading up the Wildstorm studio, because John Nee was running the studio and he was taking a job with DC in New York. So they hired Hank to come down. Weird coincidence. Hank and Emily, while they were waiting to have their house done down in San Diego, moved into the same apartment complex that I was living in.
Wow.
Which was, it was so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was such a weird coincidence. And then, one day I just sort of got this call from Hank, and he was like, we have 2 editorial positions open here, and we're wondering if you want to come interview for them. And I think part of that, a guy with no editorial experience, I don't think they wanted to pay for relocation, right? So I was a guy with no job in town. So, hey, and I had comics background, and I came in and I interviewed for 2 different positions. One was a editor with the Wildstorm group, and the other was editor of the manga line, which I really had, most of my exposure with manga was through Malibu, right? Because we used to do manga stuff too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I ended up getting that job doing the manga stuff, which was, primarily it's like translation and.
Do you remember that you hired me to do some freelance stuff for you?
Did I?
You did.
What?
You sure did. I did. I don't know. I want to say about 6 or 7. One of them, I only remember one title, "The Key to the Kingdom" or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did. You hired me to be. I don't remember exactly what the
was like a freelance editor, was it?
Yeah. You said just make sure it sounds like American English.
Yeah.
That's all I did. I just read it and make sure it sounded like, and I made a couple suggestions, and
I totally forgot about that because because I had a lot of titles to do, and they're very they're very long. I mean, they're like 150-page books, right? And trying to get through all these translations and stuff, and figuring out how to adapt to the page. And I really enjoyed that. I liked that a lot. It was a lot of fun. I really got into manga. I liked it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and then that line was, of course now there's this monstrous manga boom, right?
Right.
But that wasn't happening back in 2000. Like manga is always cyclical, right? It does really well and then it goes down and goes back up. So around 2010, it was not doing so well, and DC was getting rid of it. And then, Hank was just like, well, you can go over and edit, on the Wildstorm books. And then I started doing that. I started doing the regular Wildstorm comics, and I was editing stuff like, we did a lot of licensed stuff. I did some of that, but I was also, for a short period of time, I was editing like Wildcats and Authority and stuff like that. And then that went away, and we started doing digital comics. We were doing both original digital comics, and we were like adapting all the DC stuff to the various digital platforms.
I didn't realize you did original stuff.
We did some original stuff. Yeah. Directed digital. And then in 2011, I'm sorry, I'm giving you the whole history here. 2011.
No, that's what we want.
Yeah, that's when DC decided, it was a big corporate decision. They were going to close the office in La Jolla, which, for those of you who don't remember, Wildstorm was started by Jim Lee in the 90s. And then in the late 90s, it was bought by DC. So by the time I got there, it was DC again. So it was kind of like me doing a homecoming, but on the other coast, right? And then so they moved us up to Burbank, and those of us in Wildstorm, we went to Burbank before New York. We were there for about 4 years, and then they shut New York and they moved everybody to New York. So what I always like to tell people is, people would come, they go, "Oh, did you come from New York?" I said, "No, DC followed me to California."
Right. I blazed the trail.
And, and I was lucky. I burned no bridges when I left. I left on good terms the first time. So it wasn't like a big deal when I came back, And actually there had been a time in the late 90s where I actually went back to DC to interview for a position, and it didn't really work out at the time.
Not like the bridges you'll burn tonight.
Right. But, look, I'm old now. I'm never coming back now. So it's just like, forget it. I was lucky to be rehired when I was 48. Like, nobody's going to hire me at 66,
Yeah.
So but that's fine. I planned it this way, and I know. So, but yeah. And so I think I've covered everything. I mean, I had some jobs like between when Malibu closed and when I came back to DC. There was about a 12-year gap where I worked for a toy company. I worked for a video game company, thanks to our old buddy Chris Olm. Was working for
the key to breaking in is basically know everybody at Malibu over a long period of time.
Yeah.
and then live in Hank's apartment building.
Yeah.
I knew I was doing something wrong.
So all you young people out there, you're doing it wrong. You don't submit your samples and don't interview at conventions.
Hank's
Know your
address
neighbors.
is-
That's the other thing.
Go back in time and work for Malibu. You know?
That's right.
Right, yeah. Or here's Hank's address right here for all
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he would love that, I think.
yeah.
Well, the other lesson is, you treat your coworkers well, and you will have a career ahead of you if ever you want to work with them again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, to get serious for a moment, people always talk about networking, and it's no lie. I mean,
No.
Yeah.
I think every good job I've had in my life has been a result of networking.
well, that's
And somebody who can open that door for you, right? I mean, you still need to be able to do the job, to come in, and you have to meet with other people who you don't know, but that can open doors, at least get somebody to talk to you, which might not happen.
Right.
because the other thing
Absolutely.
is that at its peak, Malibu Comics had 150 people in Southern California. And so
Mhm.
once Malibu shut down, those 150 people were scattered into other careers and other job opportunities and other professions.
Yeah.
And so if you knew them, you instantly had a network of, I mean, maybe 50 people out of the 100 hate you, but 100 of them.
Well, just in Tom's case,
Yeah, I'm speaking, speaking for myself, maybe. There's 100 people that like me and maybe 50 people who think I'm the demon. But
Well,
there's
only those that held on to the emails that you sent them.
I learned not to do that. I've had
Roland, the flip side of that, though, is Tom has files on everyone.
I know he does, right?
Well, when I write my book, it's,
That's so true. All right, we got a couple comments here. Rob Davis says, "Woohoo, Jim Chadwick!"
Hey, Rob.
And then he adds, "Ari Jones opened the door for me twice."
there you go.
Ari's a good guy. Ari's a much loved guy here.
Cool dude.
Hyper says, "Oh snap! Sorry, Jim, but tonight is Tom's trivia featuring Easy Company."
That's right.
He also said, "How often, Jim? How often have you been asked to sketch concrete by a confused fan?"
So, okay, so Tom has probably heard this a million times, but it's not so bad now. Like the last 10 years haven't been bad because, frankly, because I don't know what he's doing now, but Paul Chadwick has sort of kind of disappeared,
Yeah.
And when I got into comics, he was the Chadwick, right? And he was winning like Eisner Awards every year. So it was like I was the other Chadwick, but so I constantly had people like coming up to me, "Oh, I love your work." It's like, you mean Paul Chadwick, don't you?
You're like, "Are you sure you do?"
And I'll tell you the two of the most bizarre instances of this was like, my ex-wife used to go to shows and she was working for another company and she would have people come up to her and going, "Oh, I love the coloring work you do on your husband's comic." And then even stranger than that, one year I got Paul Chadwick's 1099 form from Warner Bros.
No
How'd
way.
that happen?
That made no
Wow.
sense. That made
Wow.
no sense whatsoever. Like, I guess he had done some freelance work for like Warner Film or animation or something, but why did they send it to my address? You know what I mean? If he should have had his own address on file. And I thought, okay, this is too bizarre. This is just too freaking bizarre. And then, but I think after a while, I like established enough of my own name in comics at the same time that he's sort of, and again, if anybody knows what he's doing nowadays, I'd love to know. And the weird thing is, he and I met once at a convention and we talked about this and we were comparing notes, and it's quite possible we had mutual ancestors.
Well, you remember that was one of the first questions I asked because I'm from Mississippi, so we think everybody's related, right? So that was the first question I asked you. "Hey, are you any kin to Paul Chadwick?"
I know, right? And the thing is, that's always the obvious thing, right? And of course, as a kid, I'm sure you did too. You always think your name's unique. Nobody has this name, right?
Right.
And then you grow up and you find out, oh, it's nothing.
Tons of people.
Your name.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
So, but yeah, but weirdly, we were sort of tracing the roots and stuff. It's like, yeah, we may actually be distantly related.
Well, they're cousins.
And you know what, Roland? I mean, this is interesting because my oldest brother, who has passed away, but he was more into the family genealogy than I was, and apparently, Chadwick was a much more common name in the South than it was in the North.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's an Irish name, right?
Well,
passport?
Yeah, I don't know. That's questionable. I was brought up by my mom saying we're Irish or Irish. Chadwick is more of an English name. We have Scots on one side.
Yeah.
Most of my father's family was German, so I don't know. Mom always put up the Shamrock and the St. Patty's Day stuff and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I got to do one of those genealogy tests. Those things, find out.
Well, I thought for years we were Scottish.
Yeah.
On my father's side, and it turns out we're not, because my sister did some genealogy looking around, and it's like, no, we're Irish. So for decades, I thought I was Scottish, and I was looking up stuff in Scotland. I was watching Scottish television stuff, and I was reading about it. And now I got to go back. I got to go back and start drinking.
Well, yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Tom,
he returned his kilt.
You may be more Irish than I am. But my mother's maiden name was Murray, and that I know the Murray clan came from Scotland to Ireland.
Right.
So
yeah, because Mason is an English name, but not necessarily an English name. So, and my grandfather's side of the family, my mother's side of the family is mostly German. Although my grandfather in his early pictures looks more like a Barbary Coast pirate than a German. So I sort of want since I have a dull family history, I really want to find out, because if I turn out to be related to Barbary Coast pirates, that'd
be something.
Yeah. That genealogy, I will say this, it's addictive, and it's a lot easier to do today than it was when I first got started in the 80s. But I can remember my dad had always said, "Oh, we're German." We mean, man, he said, "We're German. We got it to find in the family tree. We came from England."
That's why
he's like, "I thought we were German all this time."
That's why you have to trust the documents. You can't trust the lying relatives, because they
They
smooth over what they think is the embarrassing family history. And I think for creative people, it's like, no, that's the interesting part of the family.
Right.
That makes it unique.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an aunt, my grandmother's twin sister. We had a branch of Manns come into the community in the 1950s, and we weren't kin to them at all. No, they were hippies. We weren't kin to any of them. Come to find out, they were cousins. They were cousins. She just didn't want to claim them, right?
Dirty, filthy hippies, Roland. You can't.
Tom, I just got to ask though, the Barbary Coast Pirates, they're not the eye patch and parrot variety, are they? Or no?
No, it's the it's the one. Did you see The Wind and the Lion with Sean Connery?
Yeah.
He's a Barbary Coast pirate.
Yeah.
He's the Raisuli.
They were the ones that gave early U.S. a hard time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, because we kept trying to colonize the wrong things.
Yeah. First of all, The Wind and the Lion is a terrific movie that people forget.
It's one of my favorites. I watch it.
Wonderful.
It's a real epic. One of the last of the real big sort of post David Lean epics before Hollywood started making superhero movies. But I
guess I've seen that.
It's great. I highly recommend it.
Well, and it came out in 1975, so it was kind of buried by other stuff that year, like Jaws and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There were just so many big movies that year, and it just sort of got lost in the shuffle, I think. But it's a terrific action movie, and
it's the only movie I can stand. No, it's one of two movies I can stand with Candice Bergen.
Yeah. And Brian Keith is Teddy Roosevelt. Is terrific.
Wow,
he's excellent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hyper, to answer your question, yes, that is the Dinosaurs for Hire cover behind Tom's shoulder there.
Yes, absolutely. It's the original art by Brian Carson, inked by Scott Hanna.
Nice.
David Rios, who's another Malibu alum, says, my inking stuff came from Mark Panicia, but my coloring came in from Malibu's program of supporting the local comic shops, which I worked at the time. Dave Olbrich was in a lot. So,
and that was a guy. There was also a guy we had named Elliot who went to all the comic shops as our sales rep.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's like, wait, I remember that. Yeah, last week you mentioned a name, Greg. I was like, oh yeah, Greg. We're always bringing packages by.
Guy.
Yeah.
Rob, it's like I can't remember yesterday, but
there we go.
Rob said, just checked on Paul Chadwick. As late as 2017, he was working on a new concrete story.
Oh, that's a long time now, though.
Yeah, it is. It's like 5 years now.
Yeah.
And people were calling him Jim.
Pops of the Madness Network says, happy retirement, Jim.
Thank you.
Nice.
So, how many office supplies did you steal when you left?
Ooh.
Did you get any paper clips? Did you get any pens? Did you get some drawing? Did you get some art paper?
We don't have that. We didn't have that stuff anymore. We were in like, new fangled open floor plan offices where you didn't really have an assigned desk or office. You would just
That's so not fun.
No, it's just it was
Terrible
weird.
stuff.
It's kind of weird to feel. I mean, I got used to it after a while. I mean, I didn't really mind it. I the way I compared it was kind of working at like a nice college library or something,
Now this was a COVID result, right?
No,
Or
that
did
was
you do it
actually
before then?
That was a
COVID. Yeah.
it was
Really?
a style. It was kind of a
It was a
style.
big thing. It was really driven by the tech industry, right?
Yeah.
And that is what championed it, and everybody got on board and said, "Yeah, this is."
But what's funny is that they all got on board at the time, and they started making all the offices, and then the tech company said, "Oh, this doesn't work for anybody. Everyone's less productive. Oops!" And then everyone did it anyway.
And there was too much money invested going forward. It's like, well, you can't stop the train now. It's let the station,
And so when I went to high school, they had built a new high school and they followed the new concept, which is an open floor plan. And so nobody had a desk. Everybody sat two to a long table. And so there's no place to put your books or anything like that.
Wow.
You just kept everything in the locker. And shortly after I graduated, everybody said, "This sucks. This doesn't work." And they started putting walls back up again. So they got money from the county to build the interior of the school and make it all walls again.
Wow.
Embarrassing.
Now, this was Virginia, right, Tom?
Yeah, Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you guys. If you remember from your college days, right? You went to go see your professor. They had a small office, right? But they had their bookshelves and everything. They had their desk there. We don't have that at where I'm at. We literally you remember the Calabasas offices that had all the cubbies?
Yeah.
That's what our offices look like. I'm at a cubby, and I can't have a private conversation with a student because I've got three. Yeah. Fortunately for us, they let us do most of our work at home, so we're not required to be in the office that much. So, but it's kind of like Roberta was saying. It's like no one's productive in there.
Not really.
No, because I'm listening to you talk to your wife all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the one thing we did have at DC in the open floor plan, which that office opened a little over a year ago, they had I think there was a different name for it technically, but I called them phone booths. Right? They were like these little booths you could duck into.
Oh,
for some
private time.
Personal time. Yeah.
Private thing. Yeah. Yeah. So every time I'd have to make a phone call, get a phone call or something, I would just
It's also the crying room where if you have.
I think there was one of those actually.
Or the sleeping room if you just
yeah.
gonna nap.
Rob Davis is the cone of silence.
That's what you need. You need the cone of silence.
David says Diane Botto was in our shop most of the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and then Steve Scott says, "Hi from Belgium, guys. I'm up late, pencil pushing some pages." So,
hey, Steve.
I'm sure the publisher appreciates that.
That's right.
Yes. Get to
We
work.
still got to get Steve to do us a cover too.
Yep, I reached out to him, and he and I have swapped a couple of messages. The coordinating, him coming on the show is going to be tough because he's in Belgium.
Timing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the
He
time.
can stay up all night. He's up now.
That's true. He's up now. He might as well, right?
Hey, freelancers, they work.
Bring him on.
Work all hours.
That's right. So you guys got any questions? I have questions, though.
I do have questions.
Go ahead.
All right. So now that you've, I mean, I know the answer to this because we talk all the time, but
for our viewers at home,
So you're leading. Is that what you're doing? You're leading
for the viewers at home. And so because Jim and I had the pre-interview before we came on.
He's like, am I gonna hate myself for going on the Silverline stream? Nah, go on.
Because Mason's gonna be there and he's gonna pick it. But so I know that you drew when you were a kid. You drew all the time, and you drew when you had dreams of working for Marvel DC, and you drew your own comic, and you drew a comic book for me. And I've seen that you doodle all the time, and you have a lot of the old-fashioned art supplies that I still have as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you're retired and you can do things for yourself, are you going to do that again and go back to just creating?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to put it is I've come full circle. Like I'm going to be the me I was when I was a teenager in my early 20s, which is all I did was
the last time we had freedom.
Yeah, right. That's how we call it, And the funny thing is, I started doing it again a couple of years ago. I actually set up a separate Instagram account. I was just drawing stuff and posting it on there, but I just got too busy. I couldn't keep it up. But I'm probably going to go back to doing that. It's like because I love doing it, and I feel like I've learned a lot over the years just from working with great people and seeing people's techniques and. So it's definitely on the agenda. It's one of the things I want to do. And
cool.
I'm probably gonna make my own comics, but I don't think I'm gonna publish that. I'm probably just gonna put stuff up on a website somewhere. Just because
I don't think you need the pressure of the output. I think it's just more just drawing for creativity and relaxing.
I mean, a couple of things at this point. Like, am I looking to start a new career with this? No, not really. And the other thing is, and this is a little complicated, briefly, but the nature of and we haven't really talked about my relocation, but the retirement visa I'm going to on Spain is essentially a visa, and which means it's called a non-lucrative visa, which means I can't earn any money, like any money.
Meaning that you're supposed to be retired when you move.
Retired, right? Exactly. Any money I have coming in has to be passive income, so I technically can't be doing anything to earn money. Now that may change after a year. I have to renew the visa, and if my idea changes, then I can apply for like a digital nomad visa or something like that to do it. But it's very complicated because it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, you're going to make any money. How much money are you going to make? I don't know. Well, you got to pay taxes on what you think you're going to make. And like, I don't know what I'm going to make. You know what I mean? And
you're like, I'm in comics. I'm not going to make very much money.
Yeah. And I actually do know like at least one friend of mine who lives there, and he's a Brit expat, and he's like a young comic book writer. He's kind of doing some stuff for Image and stuff now, but he says it's a real hassle, because he's not making a lot of money, but then he has to pay his taxes up front, and that's difficult to do. So and here's the thing, at least my first year, I just want to relax. I've been working my whole life. I just want to just have fun and
well, I hear the food is pretty good over there.
Yeah. And I've also been talking about, I don't want to go into this in too much detail because it's just a rough concept, but I tell you, there's a friend of mine who I've been talking to, and she's done her own, kickstarted her own graphic novel. She's like, there's this story that she and I have been talking about. It's like, we should work on that together. And like, oh, okay, but that's like so far down the road, I don't.
If you got paid, and so I think I have a loophole for you. So if you get paid in cash, and you have somebody put the cash in a safety deposit box in the bank where there's no tax record of it, it could be waiting for you when your visa is over.
You just go get the cash.
Go get the cash. You just dip into it as you need. It's like, hey, can you send me X?
Yeah.
Get your PayPal account.
I've read a lot of crime fiction as a child, and
I have yet to tap into Tom's mastermind criminal knowledge.
Sounds like that's just the beginning.
Yeah, I'm putting together a gang, and I think
figured out.
Well, it is funny that you mentioned this this graphic novel project with this she, because we all figured you're going to Spain because there's a she there drawing you.
No. This is the person I'm referring to is somebody who lives in the States, and it's just and that's just something that's like
so
one.
There's no Spanish lady over there waiting for you to retire.
No.
No.
No, but who knows?
Who knows? That's right. Rob Davis says retirement is good. And he says, I'm busier since I retired than I was when I was working a real job and having more fun than ever.
That's awesome.
I want to get to that point. Right now, I have had no fun since I retired because everything is about this move. And it's been nothing but like work. It's just getting rid of things, selling things, eBay, which I hate, but I got to do it. And
I know you cleaned out your storage shed. I saw the before and after pictures of your storage shed.
Yeah. And it's just, and that was also a money saving thing too. It's like, okay, I don't have a job now. I got to stop paying the stupid rent on this thing. that I've been paying for the last 12 years. I can't afford to do this anymore, right?
Right.
And it's just it's so much work. And I think the same thing Rob said, I'm working harder now than I was at my job in the last year. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I'm so stressed out. So I really think I'm not going to be able to enjoy my retirement until I get there and I'm settled and everything else. And then that's when the fun starts. But right now,
do you have that all figured out where you're going? You got the
I do. So I'm going to Spain, and if you like, I can tell you why. But I know the region I'm going to, and I've got my visa, which was the big hurdle. Like I spent the last year like getting all the paperwork set up on that and everything. And it was all leading up to you have to go actually in person to the Spanish consulate, which I'm fortunate there is one here in Los Angeles, and you apply all the paperwork. And I did that, and pretty much all my forms were fine. They let me slide on one or two things, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, well now it'll be like another month." And a week later, they're emailing me. They're like, "Your visa's in." I'm like, "Holy crap!" I thought it was going to be like another month. And so now, actually, as of today. For some reason, I don't know why this was the starting date, but as of today, I have 90 days to get there.
Oh,
so
okay.
The clock is ticking.
Pressure.
Now the pressure's on.
It's pressure. The pressure is on and I don't want to extend to 90 days,
right?
Because there's so much stuff that I have to do once I get there. Because it's essentially it's really like a temporary visa. It's not official until I get there and do all the paperwork, and I have to report to the local police and register and all this other stuff that has to happen, and of course utilities and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
So are you trying to get rid of everything that you have here and taking stuff? So you're not, whatever you're taking is what's your possessions. That's it. You don't.
Exactly. So I'm thinking,
what kind of cool stuff do you have? We may come by.
Most of it's gone already, but
man,
I'm taking probably 2 suitcases full of clothes. I have a really nice, very expensive camera I haven't really utilized that I want to start doing. That's another thing I want to get into.
Oh yeah.
And I just traded I got rid of my old iMac, which is a big bulky thing, and got myself a new MacBook Pro because I want to be mobile. I want to have something portable. Nice. So I'll have a briefcase with that. And then, I think maybe I'll end up shipping like 5 or 6 boxes or something,
Wow. So it's almost like you're going on vacation, but just staying.
Just staying, right? It's like you're in a hotel room, and it's like,
you brought enough underwear.
Yeah.
So there's
underwear is the easiest thing to replace.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's a shipping thing called the M bag at the post office.
What's that?
An M bag is basically a bag. It's a canvas bag. It looks like when you see people rob a Brinks truck.
Yeah.
It's like a big sack, and you put whatever boxes fit in the sack.
It's a big duffel bag.
It's one price, and it's for overseas, and they ship it by like the slowest boat.
Of course.
Yeah.
So if you're not in a hurry to get it.
So don't put your meds in it, is what he's trying to say.
Well, Tom said M bag. That sounded like a drug reference to me.
It does, doesn't it? Well, I'm full of scams. But the M bag is I would look into it and see if you qualify for it.
Well, and I also have to find a service that will hold the stuff and then ship it when I tell them to ship it, because I don't have a permanent address yet. I won't get that when I get there. So I need to be able to say, okay, I'm here now. Send it on.
So you're going to get off the plane and just start walking around? I'm going to go this way.
No, well, so, a couple of things. So, I have a friend there, this guy I met, and I'm using his address, just as a landing point, right? But I'm not necessarily staying with him. So my plan is, like, I'll probably do a hotel for a couple of days and then do an Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
And, my wonderful former coworkers at DC, as a retirement gift, they gave me this very, very generous gift certificate for Airbnb because they knew what my plans were. So, I'll do that for a while, and then while I have the Airbnb, then I'll go searching for
looking for something.
Looking for. But the other reason why I don't want to bring a lot of stuff with me, because I want to keep the possibility of being mobile. Let's say
for sure.
I get there and it's like, what? I'm not too crazy about this, right? Or I want to go to another part of Spain, or maybe I want to jump to someplace else in Europe. I want to have that option, so I don't want to be.
You want to be a nomad.
Dragging all this stuff with
and a lot of stuff is furnished, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the places already have the bed and already have the couch.
And look, I don't want to get too serious here, too dark philosophical. But my other way of looking at this is that, look, none of us live forever, right? And and I'm not a kid anymore, you know,
Right.
and there are people my age and younger who just, you know, they're gone, right? And it's like
we just lost Keith Giffen.
We sure did.
Yeah, right.
You know,
and so
70 years old.
You know, my thing, like, you know, people never think about that, right? They just assume they're going to live to be 100 or something, and it's like, well, you know, if I was gone tomorrow, all this stuff would be somebody's headache to clean up, right? What are they going to do with it, you know? And so that's kind of the way I look at it. I look at it like, well, look, I'm just, you know, I'm preparing for that, right? And I want this next chapter of my life to be an adventure. I want it to be an experience. I don't want it to be about my stuff. You know, I've had my whole life to have my stuff, and now it's like, it's just me. It's not going to be, and whatever comes out of my head, whatever I'm creating, whatever I'm working on, right?
Well, it does sound fun.
You know, and it's weird though, because going through this whole process, it's kind of like, do I own my possessions or do my possessions own me? You know?
Man, yeah.
It's a bit of both, I think.
Yeah, but because it's the hook that weighs you down. It's like
it is. You know, I've literally known people like, oh, I can't move because of my stuff. It's like, wow, that's like really kind of sad. You know, it's
like a chain.
Yeah, and you know, it's tough. It's tough because, you know, you do have emotional attachment stuff. It's been tough for me. It's been really hard because there's some stuff I just get rid of, and it's like, you know, like tomorrow I have this guy coming from this big local record store who's going to bring boxes, evaluate my entire collection of music and movies, offer me a price, and if we agree on it, he's going to pack it all up and take it. All my physical media.
Can't imagine.
That's going to be brutal. That is going to be brutal.
Because I don't know about your movies, but I can remember, and I've seen a lot of your posts about your music and your records and stuff. That's a lot. That's impressive.
But you know, I'm lucky to live in an age, right, where all this stuff, hey, if I want to hear this song, right in front of me, right?
Yeah.
It's only
you don't have any bicycle stuff, do you?
No, sorry.
Hey, can I have your when you're gone? Can I have your Mac?
I think that's gone already.
I was started on this, for crying out loud. You know, I'm
Come
holding.
on. What's with the vulturing?
Really.
He's leaving it.
My good friend Tom Mason. My grave.
So can I have your Mac? So what'd you do with all your comics, Jim?
Well, you know, here's the weird thing about it. Like when I went into the storage unit, I thought maybe I had stuff that was more valuable than I did, but I've purged a lot over the years, and really most of my stuff is just like, it's stuff from like the last 15 years or so. It wasn't really in it. And I thought I had more valuable stuff, and I realized, you know, not to get too much into the dirt on this and stuff, but I think a lot of my older comics were left in my house in New Jersey, and when my wife and I split up, I just left the stuff there, and I you know, I don't know what she did with it, but it was fine. It was fine leaving it behind. Plus, I think we made a big mistake because we left a lot of it in the basement where it was kind of like mildewing and stuff. Probably a lot of it was not in good shape anyway. So, you know, I don't have any regrets about that stuff, but I really thought I had more stuff that was value when I went through the storage unit, and it really wasn't. But
every collector out there is crying now, though.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's a local retailer, and you know, I've given a lot of the stuff to him, and just, you know, because I had to get rid of it as soon as possible. Like I said, there's some stuff I'm putting up on eBay, but you know, I think you've all done eBay, right? It's
I have,
it's a lot of work, and I don't have that time. If I had 6 months, maybe I would do it, but I just don't have the time, you know.
Because we have to weigh how much money you're going to get for the time you spend,
right?
Exactly.
And the aggravation of it. It's like, nah.
Yeah, it's pretty much, hey, if I can't get like at least $40 or $50 for something, it's just not worth doing.
Right. And I don't think I have much stuff that's worth $40 or $50.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah. Do you still have copies of Renan?
I do. Yeah.
Really?
And I did a thing recently because I realized I had more copies of that than I thought I had, and I put a thing up on Facebook, and you know, I said, hey, you want this? I'm charging $6 postage included, or whatever it was. I said, unless, you know, people wanted it internationally shipped or something like that.
And then just wait till you get to Spain. Oh, well,
Yeah,
now
and
you're
I,
gonna take
and
it
I
with
just,
you, though.
right, and I just moved a bunch of them. But I guess that may be one of the things I have to take in one of my boxes because I don't know what to do with them. I just don't want to trash them, you know.
Yeah, no.
I'd say that's hard. It's hard to get rid of the thing you created and held in your hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
And I still have all the
hard time
original
with that.
art, which is big and bulky. And
Are you okay? Well, shoot, I've got a copy of it over there in my boxes somewhere, I think. But
Jim will sign it for you.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I might send you a PayPal, Jim, and get you to ship me another one signed to to your favorite former Malibu editor.
I will do that.
Dan doesn't need one though.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm hurt.
Wait a minute. If you want me to say stuff like that, that's an extra buck. So.
That's right. So you told me about your plan to go move to Spain like years ago.
Yeah.
Like that was a thing because you'd come back from a convention over there,
Barcelona, right?
And you were rolling around in your head with like, hey, I could move. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought that was the dream like we all have of like, oh, I'd like to retire to Fiji, or I'd like to go to some Hawaiian island, or I'd like to go whatever. And as time has rolled on and the more you talk about it, the more you lay it out, I get really sort of jealous because it's like,
he's doing it.
That's a really good plan.
Well, I mean, I've talked to you about this before, Tom, but the way this all hatched, this really kind of, I mean, it was sort of like a fantasy before, right?
Right.
But it really started to hatch during the pandemic lockdown, right? Which was a very depressing time. And what I started to do, my joke was, because I thought, oh, I'm never going to travel again. I'm never going to travel. And I was so depressed about that. And so my joke was that travel videos on YouTube became my new porn because it was like stuff I was never going to do. Right. And I would just experience it on video, but I ended up going down this like YouTube rabbit hole. And I started finding all these videos from expats and people who would talk to you very concrete about like, this is how I did it. These are the steps. I'm like, wow, this is something you could do. You could actually do this. This is like not, I mean, it's a challenge. Of course, there's a lot of steps to it, but it's doable. And people do it all the time. And they would sit there and tell you, here's my budget. Here's what, it cost me to do this. Here's what my monthly expenses are over here compared to the US, and the more I watch it, I said, I can do this. And then when we came out of lockdown, my first trip back to Spain was in 2021. That was, after vaccines and all that stuff, because they were still pretty restrictive. Like you had to have proof of vaccination to get into the country. I had to have a test before I can get back to America and all that stuff. But, it was still pretty comfortable. I went over there because Spain during 2020, they had a far more brutal lockdown than we had because they got hit really, really hard early on. But anyways, I was back there and I was in, there's a little town up in north called Avilés, and they have a show there. And I'm never a guest. I invite myself there because I love it. I go there. And I went back there in 2021 and I stood in the middle of the town square. I was like, oh my God, this is like a dream. Like I never thought I'd be back here. I'm back here. And that's when it really kicked in. It's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this. And then that's when I started to like, really look at the steps and see what was involved in all that. And
started running the numbers and stuff.
Started running the numbers. What do I need to do? When can I retire? What makes the most sense time-wise? I mean, look, it's not entirely without risk, but I think I'm in a pretty good place for doing it. So,
and part of the reason why I like the Europe idea so much is that if you don't like Spain or whatever, there's 17 other countries within a day's ride on the train.
Just walk this way a little ways and you find another spot.
Yeah, the rest of Europe is a hop, skip, and jump, right? It's not an expensive vacation from a base in Europe, right?
Yeah, you go to Paris for the long weekend just for fun. You can go to
I'm really thinking, hopefully I'll be there. Hopefully I'll be there before the end of this year. And I really want to go in January. I want to go to Angoulême, the big comics festival in France.
You're gonna invite yourself?
I haven't been there since 1992,
Wow. Yeah. And do you know where in where in Spain you're going?
Yeah, I'm going to Valencia. Valencia is the third largest city in the country, and it's on the Mediterranean coast.
Mediterranean coast, okay.
It's about 4 hours south of Barcelona. Like when I was in Barcelona in spring, I took a train down there, and I just fell in love with it. It was just a beautiful, vibrant city, but it's not quite as hectic as Barcelona, Madrid. It's a little bit cheaper to live there. It's just great culture, beautiful Mediterranean beach. Now, my only concern is it might be a little bit too hot for me next summer. 'Cause I'm not a guy. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll probably just move up to the north, because the northern part of the country is more of a cooler climate,
Right.
But I want to give it a try and see how it works out.
Yeah.
Because and weirdly, it's like all of a sudden I have this whole community there. It's just by coincidence I've been connected to all these people. Are like, oh, I know these people who moved there. I know these people, and people and Brits and Americans. So I already have people there who speak the language, who can help me to negotiate all the stuff I need to get done.
Right.
Not
Now, how is your Spanish?
Mi español no está bueno.
You'll get better.
I know what that means. That's
Are you
Pero estoy aprendiendo.
Oh, there you go.
I am learning.
That's better.
I am learning. Okay.
That means how much for your cigar?
Yeah. David Rios says, great thanking, Jim. It's going to be a big lift off of your shoulders.
Yeah, I think so.
Steve Scott added, I started out over here spending weeks and then months at a time traveling between conventions and comic shops. Lived out of 2 suitcases.
Now that's a comic book guy.
That's a comic book guy. The trains and Flixbus are great here to use.
I know.
If Scott is still watching, Scott knows that I know what the real truth is.
Well, he and I have connected on Facebook, and we've talked about this because he knew I was traveling, and then he shared his experience with me over there. So he's been supportive, and that's great.
Excellent.
Well, when I retired to the south of France, we can meet at the border and have lunch.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Just put a chair on either side. Nobody
That's
won't
right.
get in trouble. Pass the salt. You like fling the salt across the board.
It's a meeting of the Allied powers.
Can I have some French salt? Oh, now it's Spanish salt.
No, different. So, is this something that you plan on? Like you said earlier, don't get on the ending times of stuff. Is this where you want to finish, Jim? There,
that's
I don't know a better way to say it.
That's a great.
Do you plan on coming back? I guess is what the.
I really don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. So the way the visa works, right?
Because you're not that old, so if you go, you're going to be there for a while.
My first visa is a year, and then it's renewable for 2.
Okay.
And after that, it's renewable for another 2, and then that's a total of 5 years. And after 5 years, then you can apply for permanent residency.
So you're thinking 5 years, you figure it out. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'll play it as it goes, and we'll see.
There you go. That sounds great.
I have a question about the permanent residency, though. If you decide to change it to a working visa, is it different?
Yes, it is. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I know it's more complicated. If you change it to a working visa.
Yeah,
for sure.
Then you should just get a part-time job in a cafe or something.
Oh, that sounds great. I so want a barista.
Find a buddy that puts their name down on the application and let them get the money and just hand it to you.
But also, I think logistically, it's harder to move back to America just because of the healthcare thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's to be honest with you, I mean that's a motivator too, because the healthcare. I mean, I have to buy a part of the visa. You have to buy private health insurance over there. Because
you're not Spanish.
You can't get on the public insurance because you're not a citizen. But it's compared to what people are paying here for their health insurance. It's
now would that change if you get citizenship?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever actually get citizenship as opposed to permanent residency. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or long-term residency. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm never going to renounce my American citizenship. I mean, at best, I want to do, or I wouldn't do dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Because
if you need to leave, you say, I got somewhere I can go.
Yeah.
Because
I think by that time I have to be really fluent in Spanish, because I think that's part of the requirement. If you're doing that, you really have to really.
That's part of the requirement to live in Florida too.
That's why. That's why I like the Canadian thing, because I got in.
I was going to ask you about that.
Where in order to apply for residency and then citizenship, you normally would have to take a test.
Right.
And you have to go to citizenship school, and they give you a test, and you have an exam, and you have to pass the exam, whatever. There was a 2-year period where the government rescinded that rule, and I slid in under the rule. So
of course you did. You always sneak in.
I know, right? I got a scheme. I got a plan.
Of course, Tom did.
International man of mystery, Tom Mason.
So all the people that I've met here are like quizzing me about, how many provinces there are and what the capitals are, and it's like, look, I don't effing know. I came here. I slid here under the wire. Don't ask me these questions. I don't know.
You might forget, you guys. I'm gonna step back over the border. Now I don't have to know anything.
Look, all my computers are in Fahrenheit. Don't be talking to me like that.
Tom's like, hey, I'm just here for the insurance.
That's right. Give me the health care because I'm not feeling well.
Now, Tom, so the only thing I know about Canada is it was split in half, and half of them speak French and half of them speak English.
Now there's a little part in the Quebec people or the French.
Yeah, that's the only French folks.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
All right.
But it's bilingual, so you learn French and you learn English in school.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm way out of school, so I don't learn.
They didn't teach you any French.
Way out.
My French extends to French fries and French bread, and that's
French toast.
French toast, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the worst. I'm the worst citizen of Canada because I still refer to Canada as America's hat.
That's right. Yeah.
So what does that make Mexico then?
Yeah, don't I was gonna say, don't get Tom to say that.
Okay. We'll talk about it later.
Oh, you know what? That's a funny thing too. That's a little like a little Spanish thing too. I would share too, because there's some people over there when you say you're from America, they wag their finger at you. Like when I was in 2021, when I was coming back, I had to get my COVID test, and I went to this little clinic with the doctor who spoke English, very well. And he says, "Oh, so where are you from?" And I go, "America." He goes, "Canada is America." And
yeah, that's right.
Also America. And I'm like, you know how you always come out with the snappy answer after the fact, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
When
yeah,
you're
but
walking away.
I was going to say, well, we're the only ones who have it in our name.
Right. That's true.
It's true, right? But hey, he's a doctor and he's sticking things in me. I'm not going to get into an argument.
Yeah.
And it's just
He's
like,
not the guy you make mad.
Oh, sí, los Estados Unidos.
No, I've met some people who are like that, like Canada. Canada's part of America too. Well, you're the North American part.
North America, so it's like yeah. So
that's when you go, what part? I don't.
Wait.
Part of the tectonic plate. Thank you.
Yeah. But we do have it in our name. That's going to be my snappy comeback from now.
Right.
There you
it's
go.
right there.
That's right.
It's not Canada of America.
I'm trying to remember that one.
No.
Canada, America. Canada of America. And it's not Mexico, Mexico, America.
America, right?
No. It's Latin America, and then United States of America.
Yeah, that's it. The rest of them, we don't know.
Yeah. So before we get off here, time has flown by. What would you say, Jim? What would you say was some highlights of your time at DC?
Well, so there were a number of them. I probably have to say the thing I was best known for, and was probably the most successful thing I ever did, was Injustice.
Oh yeah.
That was the series that was based on a video game, which we never expected it to be the phenomenon it was. It just was like lightning in a bottle, and there are a lot of factors on that, but I won't go into it. But main one being I hired this terrific writer named Tom Taylor, who just he just took off like a rocket, and it did gangbusters for us, and it sold for years and years and years. So that was definitely one of my high points. I working with Jill Thompson on her Wonder Woman graphic novel, which won the Eisner. That was great. That was like my one and only time working on an Eisner thing, so that has a lot of value for me. And then Batman 66, that was a lot of fun. That was everybody wanted in on that, and that was a great thing to do. And and then some of the stuff I was just finishing up before I left, because my last 4 years at DC, I was the group editor for the young readers line of middle grade and young adult graphic novels. And there's a book coming out next year, not until July, called Barda, by this writer artist named Ngozi Ukazu, and it's great because I love that Kirby stuff. She loves that Kirby stuff. It's really a great way of adapting that material as YA.
Yeah,
it just works, and it was a delight working in that story, and I can't wait for that to come out. That's probably going to be the last thing that has my name on it. Oh, and of course, I just did this whole Riddler thing with actor Paul Dano, right? And based on the Batman movie, and that was quite an experience. I mean, Paul's a very sweet man, but he never written comics before, and he really wanted to do a good job, and he very, very conscientious, very serious about it, and it was tough, but in the end, I think I'm really kind of, I thought, oh my God, this could be a disaster, but I hired this artist who Stefan Subic, who the two of them turned out to be a great team together. And it was a lot of hard work, but it came out really great, and I'm kind of proud of it. And the collection is coming out in November, I want to say.
Excellent.
So that was definitely going out. And the weird thing was, that wasn't even like a line of books I worked on. I was just asked to do it as kind of a favor, because they were sort of shorthanded, and the editor who had been on it left to go take another job, and they go, "Do you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And it turned out to be great. So yeah, I think that was it. I don't think I'm leaving out anything. I mean, I worked on so many things,
you were there a long time.
So I did a long time, and just such a wide variety of stuff too, But oddly enough, I was always on the fringes of the main DC universe, like everything I did.
That's my question.
And of course, I got to work with Keith Giffen too, the late Keith Giffen, on Blue Beetle for like about a year and a half or so, and that was fun.
Nice.
So that brings up my question, which is, you mentioned you're on the fringes of the stuff, and I know you love alternative cartoonists, you love alternative music, you're drawn to sort of, quirky, oddball things on occasion.
Yeah.
And when it comes to DC, you are not the traditional like Batman editor or Superman editor or whatever, or no one says let's put Jim on World's Finest. If someone says Jim's going to do Batman 66, you're like, oh yeah, that's
makes sense.
That's the fit. Or Jim's going to do, Big Barda as a young adult graphic novel. That's the fit. Or Jim's going to do the Riddler book with Paul Dano. Well, that's the fit. So do you think you're naturally drawn to it, or did people saw you with those interests and thought you would match up?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because and it was, in a weird way, it sort of worked out for me when they made me group editor of the young readers line, which I always laugh, because sure, take the oldest guy in the company and put him on the youngest book. That makes a lot of sense. But the line was just starting up, and they wanted somebody with experience on it. But I found I really took to it because a lot of the people I work with had never worked in comics before. They were either writers coming from the prose field who had never done comics before, or they were like brand new young artists who we found in different places. We would pick people off of Instagram or whatever, because we're looking for different styles. We're not looking for traditional comic stuff. And so I get to use a lot of mentoring with that too, because I would, be able to walk people through doing this for the first time. Well, this is what you do, a lot of like basic stuff. Like you're working with a prose author, right? It's like, well, you can't have these three actions happening in one panel,
right?
and that kind of stuff. So, and I enjoyed that. I kind of enjoyed that, mentoring, and like to your point, Tom, they were sort of people who were coming at it with very different styles. They were not your traditional comic book artist people, and I gravitated towards that. I really liked it,
because a lot of the web people that come out of it, and from Instagram or from whatever, all seem to have not necessarily the tone of it, but a very sort of alternative underground approach to the way they look at things. They're sort of skewed in a way that's non-traditional. And
they didn't grow up on the stuff we grew up on. Right.
Yeah.
That's not how they look at it.
Did you guys? I know I'm asking you. I probably know the answer to this. So, did you guys happen to listen to the when Ross Ritchie was on with us?
Oh, I didn't. No, I would have loved it.
So Ross has this thing, and I absolutely love it. And so I got to make sure to give him credit. Is Ross has this thing? Is he calls it Kirby DNA? He says Roland, the people that you work with have Kirby DNA. And I said, well, explain that to me. He goes, well, there was Kirby, and then all these people learn from Kirby, and all those people learn from those people who learn from Kirby, and then those people learn from those people learn from those people who learn from Kirby. He goes, I'm looking for people who don't have Kirby DNA. And I said, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought. And I've latched on to that, and it's a great, I think for us comic book geeks, it's a great way to think of it.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's true. I mean, a lot of these people don't come in, and I think the other thing is difference too, right? Like when we were all younger and started doing this and get into this, we were all like really, I don't know how to put this, but we were all really like fans of these real craftspeople, right? Like their intricacies and how realistic they draw it and the detail and but for a lot of these younger people coming up, it's like they're not. It's not, I'm not saying better or worse. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's not all about that sort of slick polish look to everything, right? It's not like, coming from, the Hal Foster and the Bern Hogarth and the classicist and all that stuff in comics. They're coming at it from a different angle where it's more about like, expressing yourself. Right. And kind of the visual shorthand, but people pick up on it too, though, in a really interesting way. I kind of like the hybrid, right? I like people sort of come from this background where they don't have that Kirby DNA, but then they sort of pick up on it, a little bit of it, and it makes for an interesting kind of hybrid, right?
Yeah. Because I think when you're taking the Instagram artists and you're trying to get them to do, a big Barda graphic novel, they're going to have Kirby DNA seep in anyway, just because of the material, even if they didn't grow up with that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's not necessarily the best example because, like I said, she loves Kirby. And, like, knows more about the Kirby stuff than I do, which stunned me because I thought like
But maybe somebody like Ryan North then.
Maybe I don't know. But he kind of knows his comics history. Pretty well. I think it's a valid point though, and I think there are a lot of those people out there. They just don't. They don't have that Kirby DNA, right?
Right. Well, good. And a lot of them you find, like we grew up in an era where the goal was to work in comics as to get draw Marvel, draw Spider-Man, or draw Superman, or draw whatever. And the kids today, they don't have that dream. Their dream is, I just want to make my stuff. And
I want to make my comic.
I want to make my comic.
And you look at their Instagrams, and they have like 2 million followers.
Right? Yeah, they're hugely successful.
That happened.
Yeah.
But
it's
Tom,
amazing.
I'm glad you were the one in this to use the expression in my day. And
back in
I really wanted to
old
avoid
times.
using that.
But I'm not angry about it though. I love all the stuff, all the stuff that the kids today, the young kids
today.
Yeah, I'm not yelling at the clouds. I think all this stuff is great. I think the more people who are making comics, the more people who are making cartoons, the more people who are doing stuff. It's just better. It's a better world.
In a weird way, today there's more out there than ever, really.
Yes.
I mean, whatever you're looking for, you can find it.
Absolutely.
Right. The gate. There used to be gatekeepers, and they kept a lot of people out, and they were frustrated, and they had a hard time getting stuff done. Now there's no really
nothing to stop you.
Entry.
And it's not unlike the music business, right? Because you still have those handful of artists who are really big and making multi-millions of dollars, but then the rest of them, it's like, the record companies aren't interested. So they're like, hell, I'm doing my own thing now, right?
Right.
The trick, though, is because Roberta's right, they have 1 million followers or whatever. The trick is, how do you turn that into a living? How do you make that?
Right.
Yeah.
How do you make that? How do you make money so that you can keep doing that?
Right.
That's the question. I don't think
That
they
is
all
the
know.
question.
And once you buy a
Some do.
house, once you have to buy washing machines and dryers, and once you're sort of hooked into the industrial machine, you got to have a paycheck.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, you got to pay for stuff.
Right.
My clock tells me it is 9:14 here. It has been fun.
That went quick.
Jim,
Go quick.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, live in front of everybody. Would you be willing to come back? I still have so many questions to ask you.
God, yeah.
I know.
Roland, you asked me no questions on any of the dirt.
Well, we didn't get there. That's why I said. Well, I still have so many questions to ask.
I have one dirt question.
Uh-oh.
What's the worst? What superhero would you never want to work on?
Oh,
Ooh, that's a good one.
As an editor, what doesn't appeal to you? Not doesn't have to be like an insult to the character, but just what doesn't appeal to you, where it's like I couldn't make that work, or I don't want to do that.
I'm being totally honest here. I can't. I'm sure there are some, but I just can't think. I can't think of any of them right now. I run through a list in my head, and I'm like, I know you could do something with that character. Hey, you could do something.
All right,
That's
fair.
I don't. Some of them I wouldn't want to touch because of the complicated history, right? Like,
Right.
I couldn't even tell you what's happened in, like, let's say, X-Men in the last 15 years.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, it's
I don't think Marvel can tell you that either.
And I don't mean that as an insult to X-Men or anybody who likes X-Men or anything like that. It's just like, it's like it does.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's a mess.
I can tell you this though: Batman has yet to clean up Gotham City.
No.
That's
He's
right.
still working on it.
He said,
My big question is, why the hell does anybody live in Gotham City?
Right?
You got to be out of your mind to move there. It's just
You could do a story where maybe Batman is the one that's, paying the bad guys to do bad things so he can still be cleaning them up.
So my theory is that Bruce Wayne is in an insane asylum following the death of his parents, and the Joker is
He's been in
Alfred
there this
Butler
whole
is his
time.
doctor, and he's imagined all of this because Gotham City has
He's
gotten,
asleep. That's what it is.
Gotham City has gotten
Nice.
worse ever since they murdered Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Oh, that's a good story.
No better.
well, the most bizarre Batman story is DC has been doing this thing with
He's in a coma.
with Kodansha, right? They're doing a manga in Japan.
Right.
And the premise of this manga is that Batman's fighting the Joker. Batman falls into this vat or something that turns him into a baby, and then the Joker raises him.
Oh,
See?
That's
Wow.
right. This is a real thing. This is a real thing.
Wow.
I do love the Batman that the webtoons were doing.
Yeah.
Those are really different and cool.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, we'll
I'll come
there's
back.
still lots of dirt to ask you.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, timing wise, I don't know. The next month might be a little crazy for me, but
Okay.
I'll tell you this: I will adjust my clock if I'm in Spain.
Very cool.
Oh, thank you.
Well, unless you get off all social media, I know where to find you. So I'll reach out to you and we'll get you back. We'll get you back again. And I would love to talk to you. I know this is an idea that came up recently about editing. What are some of the things that go into editing? And I'd like to talk to you about breaking in, since you can talk to folks. Hey, I was at DC. Here's what we're looking for.
I would love to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
I love talking about that stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Well, then it's a deal. We'll get you back and we'll talk about a bunch of that stuff.
All
Jim
right.
Chadwick's
Your
comic
viewers
book
will be
school.
sick of me before they know it.
No. That sounds like a lot of fun. So Jim, we're gonna run through some videos here. Get you to hang out, if you will. We'll chat a little bit after we're done.
Okay.
I got to get my video queued up. You guys know what time it is.
wait, you gotta get him to do the.
Wait. I gotta talk about the other shows. I forgot. I don't even have my calendar
Yeah,
up.
and you gotta
yeah.
get Jim to say the Make Mine Silverline thing.
Yeah,
so
we'll
run that
uh,
for over and over and over and over again.
Didn't you guys read the script?
Yeah, I know.
I sent the pages out earlier.
So on
What are they doing Wednesday?
I'm looking for that right now.
We got Pops on Wednesday.
That's right. On Tuesday, these guys are going to be talking about promoting horror comics, marketing the macabre. That's Tuesday. That Silverline show on Tuesday. That is at 8 p.m. California time, so it's 11
like
p.m.
11 o'clock. Yeah.
here. On Wednesday, Going Mad for the Madness, Pops Van Zandt is going to talk about the Madness Comic Network, which is what we're part of. And the Madness Comic Network is currently crowdfunding for a Roku channel.
That'd be cool.
Yes.
Because our stuff
Next
will be on
week, we're going to be back with somebody, a name that we all know, Mr. Hank Knaltz.
Yay.
Yeah, who is with the Clover Press, and we're gonna ask Hank all kind of questions about what he has been doing as well since he's no longer at DC.
I think he's one of the Malibu people that hates me, so I might.
So that might be a good one.
So are you saying I should ask him if it's okay if you're on?
Yeah, you might just might want
Run
to
that by him real quick.
give him a heads up.
I'll run it by him then.
All right.
I will be
we
tuning in for that one.
all mellow as we get older, right?
I've had some therapy, so I'm
and you moved to Canada, so
And
I
you
mean,
moved to
there's
Canada,
that.
so that had to do something.
I'm more settled. I'm in a happier place.
Yeah.
I have health care.
So, so Jim, we usually end our show by saying, "Make mine Silverline." What I would like to do is I'd like to put you on screen, if you're willing. I'd like to put you on screen solo, and then just have you say, "Hi, I'm Jim Chadwick. Make mine Silverline," and then I'll go to some videos. You willing to do that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to avoid the temptation of doing a Stan Lee impression, though. So
that's what you need to do.
That would be funny though.
Let me get my windows open here so I can cut straight to it.
No, it's live, right?
It is. We are live still. Yeah, you should see a little live right there. Right?
So it's just going to be me on the screen. And then...
Yep. I'm gonna do that, and then as soon as you're done, I'm gonna go to some. I'm gonna go to Kickstarter video, and then we're gonna go to our end video, and then we'll come back here when
we all say goodnight to each other, and then we go to bed.
All right.
Right.
All right. So let me put Jim up here. Here we go. Jim, it's all you.
I'm Jim Chadwick, and make mine Silverline, true believers.
Hi, I'm Roland Mann, and I am the head honcho at Silverline Comics, where we love making comics. And I'm here to tell you about our next Kickstarter. This is our 27th Kickstarter. Can you believe it? I know I can't. 27. That means we have successfully funded and shipped and fulfilled 26 before this. So I'm telling you, before you even hear anything, pledge with confidence. But I'm going to stop yakking. Here I am to tell you about the first of our books on the Kickstarter. Take it away, Roland.
Switchblade is the story of Scott Nathans. Set in New Orleans, Scott is just a small-time boxer hanging out trying to make day to day. But he gets fed up with the justice system when a couple of killers are let loose by the justice system because the policeman forgot to read them their Miranda rights. And everyone knows that they killed this little girl and did nasty, despicable things to him. So Scott decides to take justice into his own hands, and he becomes a Switchblade.
Didn't that sound cool? Yeah, I thought so too. So here I am to tell you about the next book on our Kickstarter. Take it away, Roland.
Cray is a sci-fi fantasy story of a world in which mutants and humans are at war. Many on both sides want peace, but during a mutant raid on a human village, a young human boy is taken as a battle prize and then raised by a family of mutants. Trained from a very young age in the ways of war, Cray dreams of becoming a member of the Red Guard. Basically, it's the Delta Force of the world. Until, that is, his village is raided once again.
Whoa! Those sound so cool. I know you think so because I think so. And I like really cool comic books. And I know you like really cool comic books. So, back it if you can, share it if you will, and remember to make mine Silverline.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and make mine Silverline.